Hey, what's going on, guys? Free agency is finally starting to slow down. Of course, the frenzy over the last week, it's been very entertaining. We've seen a lot of players go to different teams, a lot of big signings. But overall, I think it was just an okay free agency. The pool was a little depleted. But yeah, in this video, I'm going to be going over my four favorite signings over the free agency period, and then my four least favorite signings over the free agency period. So let's get right into it. All right, my first favorite signing of free agency came very early on. As you can see, it was around 1 o'clock when this broke on the first day of free agency. Javon Hargrave, 4 years, $84 million. This was somebody that I overlooked last year. Didn't put him on my top 10 defensive tackles, even though he made the Pro Bowl. But this year, for the Eagles, obviously he had 11 sacks, made it to the Super Bowl, had a massive role in that interior defensive tackle role with Fletcher Cox. And they signed him for 4 years, $84 million, which was around market value for one of probably a top 5 player on the free agency market. But the reason why I love the signing so much is where he went. He went to the 49ers. The 49ers defense was first in the league last year with DeMarco Ryan, and he goes to a defensive line where he plays with Eric Armstead, Nick Bosa, Fred Warner. He's got Javarius Ward, Tualoa Hufanga. He's got a very, very, very good defense behind him. And also, for the 49ers standpoint, they fixed probably their biggest issue, which was their second interior defensive tackle position. We saw Javon Kinlaw get blown up multiple times in the Eagles game. And what do? You sign the best defensive tackle on the free agency market in Javon Hargrave. That solidifies your defense up a ton. Now, when we look at his contract, of course, that 4-year, $84 million deal, there is a potential out after 2 years in 2025 that could cut $40 million off the contract. So if it doesn't really work out, they have a potential out as well. The second signing I want to highlight is the Chiefs signing Jawaan Taylor to a 4-year, $80 million deal. Of course, there are multiple reasons why I like this deal. The first one, of course, is that it's an upgrade at left tackle. Jawaan Taylor played right tackle primarily for the Jaguars last season. He is very athletic and he has great length and will slide into the left tackle position well. But most importantly, he's an upgrade to the other tackle that was there, Orlando Brown Jr., who is going to be on this list, but on the opposite side. Orlando Brown Jr. came within a trade, first-round pick in 2020, or the 2021 NFL Draft, right before there. It was a first-round pick and a third-round pick, and then the Chiefs gave him the franchise tag as well last year. But upgrade because Orlando Brown Jr., not very athletic tackle, slow feet. That's been well documented. But Jawaan Taylor is extremely athletic and has great length to play the left tackle position, and he's getting paid a lot. But looking at the Chiefs, they lost both of their starting offensive tackles, Orlando Brown Jr. in free agency, and then Andrew Weil, who also went in free agency, where they were able to get Jawaan Taylor, who was pretty much the number one tackle on the market. So I really like that signing. Incredible signing by the Dolphins. They got David Long Jr. for a 2-year, $11 million deal. David Long Jr. was an excellent run defender last year for the Tennessee Titans. One of the biggest reasons why they were so good at run defending. Of course, for the Dolphins, they are getting Vic Fangio, one of the best or one of the better defensive coordinators and defensive minds out there. We saw what he could do with the Eagles last year in the Super Bowl. They had the second-ranked defense, and he got their defensive coordinator a job in Arizona. But looking at their defense, he slides in as primarily their run defending linebacker. Jerome Baker is their cover linebacker, and they didn't really have that run gap specialist. And now you get David Long Jr. on a very, very, very cheap contract. He is on a relatively cheap deal, $11 million, compared to some of the other linebackers. They got a lot more money than him that probably didn't deserve it as much as somebody like David Long Jr., who's one of the most underrated linebackers in the league. And then my last favorite signing of this free agency period is going to be Byron Murphy from the Arizona Cardinals going to the Vikings. Now, Byron Murphy has good technique at the cornerback position, doesn't have great top end speed. He played very well in the slot with the Cardinals, and it's kind of on a team friendly deal, 2 years, $22 million. I think he's getting like $10 million at most guaranteed. And most importantly, the reason why I like this signing is because he's going to a team with Brian Flores, who led a top 5 defense with Miami back in 2020, and really helped the secondary bunch with, of course, Xavier Howard. He became a second team All Pro, multiple time Pro Bowler, Defensive Player of the Year votes there, and of course Xavier Howard had a massive down year this year at the cornerback position, and so Byron Murphy is somebody who doesn't project exactly like Xavier Howard, but he's another guy with not top end speed, but will thrive in or in their system because Brian Flores loves to send in a ton of blitzes. Byron Murphy is very good within that 10 to 15-yard range off the snap in zone. And so where is he going? He's going to a zone blitzing scheme in Brian Flores, where he's going to do well in the system. And also, he becomes the cornerback 1. He'll have a tall ask at cornerback 1, but I think he'll do very good because I think he's also underrated at the cornerback position. Starting off with my least favorite signings of the offseason, I'm going to go with Orlando Brown Jr., massive bag fumbler. Last year, he was offered 6 years, $139 million by the Chiefs to play left tackle, rejected that offer, and is making half of what he was offered. But most importantly, Orlando Brown Jr., he's going to a team that has had a revolving door at tackle, and I think that will continue with Orlando Brown Jr. Bengals have not had great tackle luck. Jonah Williams, their left tackle, last year allowed the most sacks in the league. Lyle Collins had a humongous step back this year, ended the season off, left the season early with injury before the playoffs. They've drafted, 2 or 3 offensive tackles or offensive linemen within the first round of the last 5 years. None of them have really worked out. Joe Burrow is constantly leading the league in sacks. In 2020, he tore his ACL on a sack. So the Bengals have been a revolving door at offensive tackle, and Orlando Brown really doesn't help what they needed. I think they needed a young, athletic tackle, and they really didn't get that with Orlando Brown Jr., who doesn't play the left tackle position very well. When he was in Baltimore, he played the right tackle position very well, and he just desperately wants to play off left tackle a lot, and I think that's going to cost him in the end, because last year he allowed a ton of pressure, but Mahomes saved him on a lot of sack opportunities that I think would have been counted with more unathletic quarterbacks. But Joe Burrow luckily gets the ball out quickly, so it's not going to be the worst signing. And they also have a potential opt-out in 2025, which I think they exercised, by the way. But slow feet, not as good as an offensive tackle, not as bad as an offensive tackle as some people think he is. I think he's worth $40 million, but I don't think he's worth $64 million. That's top 15 tackle range or left tackle range for somebody who doesn't really fall into that category. Another offensive tackle, unfortunately, makes my list. This was more egregious because he got more money. Mike McGlinchey goes to the Denver Broncos with a 5-year, $87.5 million deal. Don't know what the Broncos necessarily were doing with this signing. This is top 5 right tackle money to a non-top 5 tackle. Mike McGlinchey multiple times was blown off the line. I think if we saw the Micah Parsons clip that was going around when the Cowboys faced the 49ers, Mike McGlinchey was blown off the line and is somewhat of a leaky tackle, and $87.5 million is not leaky tackle worthy money. But 49ers fans were very happy that they were able to get him off his roster, and that says a lot. very questionable signing for the Bears here. They signed Tremaine Edmonds to a 4-year, $72 million deal with $50 million guaranteed. Now, I don't think it's a problem necessarily with Tremaine Edmonds or what he was paid. I think it's more of a problem of where he's going. And it's not necessarily a scheme problem with the Bears. I don't think it's anything of that sort. It's just because Roquan Smith, a top 5 interior or inside linebacker, a top 5 inside linebacker, is getting paid 5 years, $100 million for the Ravens, and immediately made a huge impact on that defense. And Roquan Smith, who you traded away for a second-round pick, is now thriving in another location, and he's getting paid $20 million a year, and you paid Tremaine Edmonds for your $72 million, $18 million. Now, I'm not saying Tremaine Edmonds is a bad linebacker. He was a Pro Bowler in 2020, but I'd rather be paying Roquan Smith, who was a top 5 linebacker, that much money, $2 million. I'd rather be paying Roquan Smith $2 million more dollars a year than be paying Tremaine Edmonds, who was a top maybe 20 inside linebacker, top 15 at most, $2 million less. And the guaranteed money is pretty much the same too, $60 million guaranteed, and then $50 million guaranteed. It's just a weird signing because he's going to, the Bears didn't apparently value linebacker, and then they signed 2 linebackers, Tremaine Edmonds and then TJ Edwards, to $100 million worth of linebacker contracts. It's just weird. I didn't like it. And then my last least favorite signing is going to be Juju Smith-Schuster, and this is more of a fit problem. I don't think it's very much of a fit culturally. Bill Belichick is military style. Juju Smith-Schuster is more loose, and he's free-flowing, loose, easygoing guy. He makes has millions of TikTok followers. Obviously, danced on logos back when he was a Steeler. He had multiple players coaches within Andy Reid and Mike Tomlin, and now you have Bill Belichick, who is not a players coach, who isn't going to deal with that, and signed to a 3-year, $33 million deal. And then the second problem is fit with the Bill O'Brien scheme. I just don't think he meshes with that incredibly well. The Patriots don't like to go out of structure, and Juju Smith-Schuster thrives mostly out of structure. We saw with Big Ben back in his Steelers days in 2018 when he had, 1,200 yards, and then last year he had a career resurgence with Patrick Mahomes, where he was mostly used out of structure. But now we have Mac Jones, pure pocket passer, and he becomes the wide receiver 1, and he's getting paid like a wide receiver 1, $11 million per year. It just made me scratch my head a little bit when he signed. All right, that's going to do it for this video. Let me know your favorite moves of this free agency, and let me know your least favorite moves. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.